Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Yeah, it's good. Okay.
Okay, so I'll just start by saying welcome again. And my name is Shari. I work with Washington County Kids. We're very excited to have you with us today. And I will just let you know that there will be a door prize at the end of the evening. You have to be present to win. We have a $10 gift card to Safeway or Albertsons. And I'll do that at the end of the session. Please feel free to put questions into chat and we'll make sure that Helene is able to see them and address them. This is going to be so much fun. I'm so glad that we're doing this together. And this will be recorded so that people can watch later if they aren't able to join us live. And I'll turn it over to Katie, the president of Washington County Kids.
Thank you, Shari. So I am very happy to have you all here tonight. Washington County Kids is a nonprofit that is dedicated to increasing access to out-of-school time programs because we know that they help kids to be successful in school and in their careers. And we are also working to try and get tips and information to parents and guardians, and we support providers of out-of-school time programs as well. We hope you greatly enjoyed this session tonight. We are pleased to have Helene Cuomo speak tonight on STEM and activities that will help your kids be more science knowledgeable and interested, and to make their lives more interesting as well. So with that, I am pleased to turn it over to Helene.
Well, it's very nice to be here and to talk to grown-ups. So let me just share my screen and we'll get started here. All right, so let's see. Just have to find present mode through all this. There we go. Okay, you guys see that all right? Okay. So like Shari said, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I am so used to just stopping and turning on a dime and answering questions. So that is very comfortable for me. I don't want you to lose a thought that you have. So just go ahead and put it in and we'll address it. So I am Helene Cuomo. I am a longtime classroom teacher. I got hired right out of my undergrad. And in that time, I have taught everything from preschool up through 5th grade. So 2-year-olds to 11-year-olds, I've done it all. I started my career in Arizona. My husband and I moved up here in 2011, and I've been teaching up here ever since. My current role is a STEM TOSA. So TOSA is an acronym for Teacher on Special Assignment. And I work at 2 elementary schools in the Hillsborough School District. And my job is a ton of fun. In normal times when there's children in classrooms, I pop in and out of classrooms and I teach lessons and I help teachers find materials to either teach their lessons or support their lessons. I help them find books and additional activities that can help bring what they're teaching to life. So that's my day job. My full-time job is a mom. I have a daughter named Fiona. She is 7.5 and so full of questions. She is hands down the most challenging student I have ever seen. And she's my greatest teacher. So I was raised as an indoor kid. Like we just sat on the couch watching TV. Like that was what we did. We never went outside. It was Arizona. You would pretty much melt if you went outside most of the year. I claimed to love the environment, but I didn't know anything about it. And I never spent any time in it. So when my husband and I started talking about having a family, I said, you know what? I really want to be in a place where we can enjoy the outdoors and actually do things. So that's what drew us up here to Oregon. Yeah, so my science learning started later in my life. I was on science committees at every school I worked at, basically because none of the other teachers wanted to do it. And I was always like the newest person, so lowest on the totem pole. I just kind of got pushed into positions, and I really came to love science and teaching science. And I fell in love with it because the kids get so excited. Like, yes, math is real, and yes, reading is real and practical, but nothing really excites children like watching something grow, or, you know, making something explode or light up. Those are the things that kids remember. And so I really fell in love with science. And their curiosity is just so contagious. You know, they'd ask me questions and I would be the first one to say, you know what? I don't know. Let's look it up. And that's just kind of what drew me to this role that I'm in now. And that's where I'm coming from. So, what is STEM? Some people add in the A and call it STEAM. So this is also an acronym standing for science, technology, engineering, art, and math. With STEAM and STEM, the biggest thing to remember is that there should be a lot of applications to the real world, and to show how the scientific process can be used in everyday life, right? Like, think about your child who's building Legos, right? They have a plan in their head, they start the plan, it doesn't necessarily work. Most of the time it doesn't work. They have to rethink it, start again. That's the engineering and design process. That's what they're doing at Intel, at Nike. It starts in preschool. Cooking's the same thing. It's like, I've got all these ingredients, let's see what I can do with it. It might work, it might not. To do STEAM with your kids, it does not have to have been your favorite thing in school. It was not mine. As a kid, I was really resistant to science. I thought it was boring. I had zero interest in dissecting things. I thought it was totally disgusting. And math was just hard. I didn't want to do it as a kid, and now it's my life. Like, you don't have to be an expert. It's okay to not know everything before you get started with your kids. Learning along with them is half the fun. It's a really good example for them to hear that it's okay to not know everything. And it's a really good opportunity to model research skills and where to look, what is a reliable source, and things like that. And maybe most importantly, if you're thinking long term, these are the careers of our children's futures. They need these skills to not only be successful in school, but into the world they're going to grow into, right? Like, the paper pencil jobs are moving away. I mean, even McDonald's, right? It's all computers now. They need to know how to program those computers. They need to feel comfortable using them. These kids are going to change the world in ways we can't even imagine yet. Before I get started, does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. So basically what I kind of thought is that we'd look at each aspect of STEM, and kind of some real life practical applications that you can do with your kids at home. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to just jump right in. So science, you know, might be the easiest one and like the first one you think of. Nature is my favorite. Nature is what turned me into a science lover. Just taking nature walks around your neighborhood, and depending on the age of your kids, you can start by just counting the birds. What color are the birds? Where, you know, and noticing patterns. Like, oh, I notice, you know, the little blackbirds like to be on this tree, and the, you know, the big owls prefer this big dead one. You're noticing patterns. You're noticing behaviors and habitats and life cycles. Beach trips are great, exploring the tide pools and noticing the different creatures and how they behave, and even seeing like the shells of the, the dead animals is a great lesson on the circle of life and, decomposition and the food chain. Getting your kids to garden with you. That's a hill I'm currently dying on right now. My daughter has zero interest in my new garden, but that's another story. Backyard bird feeders are great. You can hang one in your window. I was one of those like stereotypical pandemic backyard bird feeders. I learned the names of all the birds in my backyard. I noticed which ones will come to the feeders together and which ones won't. It's really interesting conversations, and it's kind of nice to bring back to, kid behavior. Like, oh, look how they're taking turns. Oh, look at them doing these things. Science is great. Kitchen chemistry, baking, cooking, dissolving, these are a great way to open the door to discussions on states of matter, right? You take a solid, you melt it, it becomes a liquid. Well, okay, what happens now? Can I refreeze it and turn it back into a solid? Will it go back into the same form, or once that popsicle melts, is it done? You can talk about dissolving. So I set up a little experiment, but I was too eager, I guess, and jumped the gun. So a really simple experiment that you can take from this, I've got it in a file you can take home with you, is a really simple dissolving experiment. So first you can talk about with your kids, what does that word dissolve even mean? What is happening to the molecules inside that cup when we're dissolving? So you take any sort of candy you've got lying around. I tend to take the ones that nobody's eating because, that's a battle. Put 2 or 3 into each of 4 cups, and then have your kids choose 3 liquids and then make the 4th one water. Put the candy in the cup, fill it with about the same amount of liquid, stir it and leave it on the counter. Have the kids make a prediction. Which one do they think is going to dissolve first? And have them use that word. Like, I've used it with kids as young as 3. They can use that word dissolve and understand what it means. And then just keep coming back to it. Check on it every few minutes and see what happens. And then this opens the door to a great conversation about acidity, right? Is this something really acidic? And if that was inside my belly, like, how would that feel? Would I rather have this like calm milk thing or this really acidic lemon juice that broke up our candy? So the kitchen is a really fun place to get started, especially with resistant kid scientists, because who doesn't love food, right? You can explore rocks. I have bought a simple magnifying glass off Amazon. It was like $12. It's even got a light. It's super fun. Send your kid into the yard with your magnifying glass. Find the most interesting rock you can. Bring it back. Then let's draw it. Let's feel it. Let's describe its textures, its properties. Cool. Now go find another one and let's compare it. Are they the same kind of rock? What makes them look different? Do they have layers? You could talk about the rock cycle. Things like that. This might be the best thing that I got out of grad school. This is a microscope that you clip on to the camera of your smartphone, and you can zoom in and take amazing magnified pictures of like blue jeans, of carpet fibers. I love to do it like we go for a nature walk. I have my daughter collect some materials. Then we come back and we clip the microscope on my phone and we explore each of the materials. We look at the cells in the leaf, right? You can get small enough to see the individual leaf cells, and then we can have a conversation about photosynthesis and what that means, and do it in different seasons and talk about how it looks in different times.
Helene, what is that thing called? That's
Good
really
question.
handy.
Let me find the box.
I really like that thing.
Another like Amazon bargain. It is a cellular phone microscope clip-on, 30 times magnification.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Really amazing photos for such a small thing. And it's even got a light, so it helps you see even better. Also, if you are a camping family, constellations are a great conversation, and you can link that to literacy. You can go back and read the story behind the constellation, and that's great. So thinking about the A in STEAM, integrating art, you can use your natural materials and make a mandala. You can take a piece of paper and some naked crayons and do like a bark rubbing on a tree, and then come back and look up the bark pattern in a book and find out what kind of tree you found. You can take pictures, either, you know, physical or mental, and then come back and paint them or draw them when you get back. So science is, there's a lot in there. So before I move on, is questions? I can get going like a million miles an hour, so feel free to stop me. Okay. So technology, right? Maybe a gem in this like year of homeschool is that our kids have become very fluent with technology, right? They can change their backgrounds on Zoom. They can change their names. They can Google search images. They can copy and paste documents. They're really fluent with like the day-to-day, but maybe explore the household environment or appliances and look at how they've changed over time. Like the computer my daughter is using for school is nothing like the giant Apple computer I learned to type on and play the Oregon Trail, right? They're so different, and looking at it over time is really interesting. You know, our processors have gotten smaller, they've gotten faster, they can do all these different things. Go to Goodwill, buy one, take it apart, figure out how it works. How do these parts connect? And how does that compare to what we're working with now? Coding is getting a big push in schools, but also in life. Code.org is a great website full of materials, but also games. Games for kids as young as 4. Coding games for kids as young as 4. You can follow basically the way I explain to kids, coding as writing directions. Very, very specific directions. And code.org does a great job teaching them that, starting from the most basic level, working all the way up to designing different characters that can have like a dance party to, Old Town Road and, do the floss, right? So they get more complicated, and there's something for everybody. I had a great time on there. I successfully avoided my family for hours on that website. So ways to integrate art, there's a lot of programs online that you can use to do like digital art, but I thought, wouldn't it be fun to, like, if you took apart that old computer, to use the old keys as like a stamp and see what you could do with it? Turn on some lights and make shadow puppets. Trace it on the wall. Use your iPad and do stop motion animation projects. Frame picture by picture, link it together, speed it up, and you've got a story.
That's a great one.
Yeah. I recently heard somebody doing a talk on like what they do in their makerspace at school, and they used a pizza box. They painted it green, so it was like a green screen, and they had the kids make puppets inside the pizza box, and so it was like they made their own story. And those were 6-year-olds. This does not have to be complicated to be interesting and valuable.
Wow.
Okay, engineering, right? This is that process that we talked about earlier, starting with our 3-year-olds and Legos, right? So to talk about the process that everybody makes mistakes. I'm going to say it again because sometimes you hear that too. Everybody makes mistakes. And engineering, playing with engineering is a very wonderful and safe way to learn about making mistakes, right? Steve Jobs didn't make the iPhone in one try, right? How many generations later are we, and they're still finding ways to improve it and to change it? Because this is an ongoing process. So some really fun engineering tasks you can do are ramps. You can make ramps out of books, out of pieces of your cereal box, out of scrap pieces of wood. You can build it for cars, right? Or marbles or a tennis ball and then measure how far it goes. And you can alter that, like change the height. That'll change the slope. Does it go further? Does it go faster? You can make it a slide for stuffies, right? On that rainy day, we can't go to the playground, but you know, maybe the stuffies would like a slide. These are classic toys that are so good. Legos, Magnetiles. Parent hack, did you know Magnetiles stick to garage doors and then you can build with them outside? That's been really fun. Marble runs are a classic, and you don't need a set of marble runs. You can take paper towel tubes and mount them, like tape them on the wall and put them at different angles and make your own marble run. This is something fun that I used to do, like with preschoolers. Where'd my book go? Show them pictures of real life buildings to inspire their building. So hang on. Oh, I lost my book. Oh, here it is. So when I was a preschool teacher, I printed this out and just put it in the block area. And I had pictures of just famous buildings that maybe they would want to replicate or try to design. So, you know, some they would know, right? Like I was at a Jewish preschool, and so everybody talked about, you know, oh, the pyramids during Egypt. Oh, haha, we built those. Great. You know, the Western Wall. But then there were also things like the Great Wall of China. Challenge your kids. What's the biggest, longest tower you can make? And then you've got history, you've got geography, and you've got engineering all built in. Dominoes, like setting up a domino track, is so frustrating and equally rewarding for them. Like to see their faces and hear their cheers when they finally make it work is really good. And it's good for them to fail. It is so good for them to fail sometimes in a safe place. You can talk about simple machines and find them in your house. Like, where do we use a lever? Where do you see a ramp? So we don't have a 2-story house, but if you do, you can use the, what's that called? The banner of your stairs to make a pulley. And then you can get like really crafty and put a bucket on the end and pull a toy upstairs from downstairs, or vice versa. You could design a musical instrument. You could start a family band, right? And here's the thing. Kids love challenges. They love to prove us wrong, right? So make it a challenge. Can you build a tower that's a certain height? Or can you build a tower that only uses certain materials? Like, what's the tallest thing you can build with, you know, plastic cups and popsicle sticks, right? Can you build a bridge that's strong enough for a toy to move across it? They love challenges. And here's a thing I feel like got stolen from me as a child, is let them use simple tools. Let them see how it feels. Touch a screw, try to pull it out of a piece of wood with a screwdriver. Safely supervised, right? Don't like give your kids power tools and walk away, but it's a good learning space for them to see how it feels. And then as they grow, they become more confident and ask you for more. So ways you can integrate art is, sketch out that plan. What are you going to use to build that ramp? What will your cardboard guitar actually look like? Okay. And math, right? So math.
Helene, I have a question that came in while we were on that page. Do you have any ideas that might be appropriate games or activities for special needs toddlers ages 4 years?
Like engineering specifically or just in general?
Alfredo, did you mean engineering or any STEM related?
Yeah, I mean, any game, because he does lose a lot of attention to games like, so he will play like with cans, instead of, we buy him toys and he just doesn't pay attention to them, rather play with like I mentioned, cans.
Yeah. So one thing I did when my daughter was really little is I bought like a bag of pom-poms, right? Cat toys now. So, here. So you buy a bag of pom-poms from like the dollar store, and you could have them sort by color, or even just try to pick them up and put them in a cup. I bought these tweezers at the dollar store, hoping to use them in school, but we haven't been there yet. This is really good for fine motor skills eventually. Once they can pick it up with their hand and get it in the jar, then they can start working on those motor skills that will help them later. And sensory experiences are great for anyone in preschool. And as long as there's not like a sensory kind of disorder, which I know can be a thing in preschoolers, give them those physical experiences. Like have them sit in the grass and maybe sort leaves, right? Is this one smooth or is this one bumpy? And just give them some of that vocabulary. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So math is like a secret code, right? Like when I was a kid, math was hard. And I swear I felt like I was in a foreign language class every day. I just didn't get it until I was 25. And I worked at a school that just happened to teach math through finding patterns and relationships with the numbers. And then all of a sudden it clicked. And that might be true for you too, right? When we were in school, we just learned like, this is the algorithm, just memorize it. These are the steps. It doesn't have to make sense. But we really want it to make sense to our kids. We really want it to be meaningful and useful for them. So cook with them. Have them, if they're old enough, have them read the directions. And then try, doubling the recipe and talking about that. Okay, well, if it calls for half a cup, but we're making double, what is a half plus a half? And then they've got the cups and the spoons right there. They can try to figure it out. Or when they're older, try cutting the recipe in half. And then they're dividing fractions and they don't even know it. So sneaky. Fun fact, I had chickenpox while my first grade class learned fractions. So my mom bought a pizza and brought it home, and that's how I learned fractions, right? Fraction or pizza is fractions of a whole. Bake a dozen cookies. That's fractions of a group, right? If I eat 3 and there's 12, what fraction of the cookies did I eat? It's a great, you can draw pictures. It's a visual right there.
And they're cookies.
And they're cookies. Who doesn't love to have cookies around the house? Measuring is a great opportunity. Have kids sort their stuffed animals from smallest to biggest or longest to shortest. Have them measure. Have them measure pieces of furniture. Have them go outside and measure their shadow. There are opportunities for measurement. And when I talk to like middle school teachers, measurement is the area that they say they have to work on the most with their students. It's like most of the time, yeah, they know their fact families or they can, work on their fluency of facts. But measuring is a huge gap in our math curriculum. There's just not enough opportunities for it in the school day. So getting them to do it at home is a great chance to build that skill. Reading thermometers, telling time, sorting and grouping objects. These are all math skills that are second nature to us as adults, but they're so simple to reinforce to our kids. If you don't have one analog clock in your home, it's a good investment, I think. You can get one super cheap, but to get them to practice that basic skill, and then it's like skip counting, right? Because you have to know the 8 means 40 minutes. You count by 5s to get there. And this is when my daughter caught on to me with this next one, that's when she stopped playing my games. I just find ways to practice skip counting everywhere. Count by 5s while you jump rope. Count by 2s as you climb the stairs. Count backwards while you're doing jumping jacks, right? Just count, count, count. You can count forward, you can count backward, you can count by 11s, you can count by 4s. So many different ways. Math seems like you can't really integrate art, but there's a lot. Like tessellations are a really fun thing. You take a note card and you can like cut out a piece of one side and glue it to the other side, and then you can make like a repeating pattern with it. Have them learn about an animal, right? When I taught first grade, I had a big penguin unit. And at the end of the unit, the kids got to pick their favorite penguin and we were going to paint it. But they had to paint it life size. So they got a big piece of butcher paper and a measuring tape, and they had to measure 16 inches, 18 inches, 42 inches, and then draw the penguin like it looked in real life. And then they got to compare and contrast, like, oh, I'm 5 inches taller than my penguin, or I'm 3 inches shorter than my penguin, or plants, right? Like maybe animals are not your kid's thing. Do it with a plant, right? This tree can grow to be 6 feet tall. What would that look like on a piece of paper or many pieces of paper? Yeah, it's just, you can be pretty sneaky and like pop these things in and your kids might not even know. But maybe they will, maybe they love it. All right. I'm happy to take questions.
Let's see. Somebody's jumping back in. Does anybody have questions? You can just speak them out if you'd like.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called exactly, but I do remember there being a STEAM program for kids where you can actually get like a article, kind of like a Sports Illustrated, but for STEAM. And they send out, because of the whole epidemic, they're sending out like 1 month projects so kids can get like the build a car, or like the marble thing, build your own maze for the item to get through on its own, stuff like that. I forget exactly what the name of it is, but it's like STEAM engineering for kids or something of that order.
Are you talking about the Kiwi crate?
Yes.
Yeah. So those are great. We got those. My daughter got those as like a Hanukkah gift, right? And so every month they come to your door, and each box has a different theme. So like 1 month it was capillary action, and it's got, you know, like a little comic book inside that talks about what capillary action is and what it does in the real world. And then and then inside the box is all the pieces you need to do the experiment to see capillary action happening. Those are great. Yeah, I really love them, but I don't know what the price point is. So if that is in your,
It's no more than the regular like a $2 or $4 magazine. It's
right.
like highlights for kids
Yeah.
in price range.
Well, it's a box, and so it comes with all the stuff, right? But it's so exciting. They get so excited to see it come to the door.
And then another
a lot
one
of
of
value if that is in your budget.
your science things was in the kitchen, putting an egg and vinegar in a cup. Starts off hard, and then over time it becomes a bouncy ball kind of thing.
Yeah.
For textures and for consistency.
Yep. States of matter. You talk about dissolving, how different things react. Oobleck is also another really good one. There's a Dr. Seuss book that goes along with it. I always love to integrate literacy where I can. So there's a Dr. Seuss book about Oobleck, and then I like to make Oobleck. It's like cornstarch and water, basically. And it creates this, what do they call it? A non-Newtonian substance, right? So it's not quite a solid, and it's not quite a liquid, right? If you were to grab a handful, it would be solid, but then it melts through your hands. It's
like the Elmer's glue setup, where you add that, and I think it's some dish soap.
Similar. I like this one. Just I like the therapy of it, right? It becomes very yeah, cornstarch and water.
I love that one.
If you want to make it a different color.
That's the one where you can hit it with the weight of your hand and it is a solid.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put your fingertips in, you get the, oh, it's so cool. I love that one.
And that is really fun to do, like sinking and floating with too. It defies all the laws that sinking and floating in water do.
Okay.
I liked your, when we were talking in the beginning about how you can encourage kids who are maybe STEM reluctant or don't have interest in STEM by using things in the kitchen. Do you have any other suggestions that work with the kids that maybe don't think they have interest in STEM?
Yeah. So one thing we started when my daughter was about 4 was make your own salad dressing, right? So we gave her like a little bit of olive oil, and then she got to like pick her vinegar, and we helped to measure at the beginning, and then we were like, okay, here you go, pick your flavors. What do you want on your lettuce? So there's the engineering design process right there, right? Okay, here's the plan. I want it to be sweet. What things do we have that are sweet? Put it in, give it a try. Oh, that actually tastes gross. I don't like that. I'm going to try it again. So that might be a good one to start with. And also, you know, the classic baking soda and vinegar, right? Like take a cookie tray and sprinkle some baking soda on it, and like with an eyedropper, let them put vinegar on it, and then they get to see it like bubble and react, and you can mess with different types of vinegar or adding food coloring, and does that change the reaction? And you can talk about change that way.
They're good. I think when you start getting into the reactions, I wonder if parents might be worried about not being able to explain the answers of how things might react. Like, what would you suggest to parents who want to try some things but are worried they may not have all the answers?
I worry about that too sometimes, because we're 7 and my daughter's 7.5. I think she's officially smarter than me now. I would say look it up together, right? Like you can use the term chemical reaction, right? That's what's happening. It's a chemical reaction. And then look it up and say, well, how come the baking soda reacts this way with the vinegar? Oh, there's an acid, there's a base, and when they mix, it creates this chemical reaction. It produces heat or it produces gas. Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to say, I don't know. If that's the one thing you take from this, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Let's find out together.
That's a good one.
Other questions that other people maybe have?
Yeah, I have a question. So, first of all, you're from Tobias.
Yes, you
Yay.
accept with hi, with Miss Herzog. I thought that was you.
And then this is very specific because my 3-year-old's obsessed with shaving cream right now, and I probably could Google it and find something, but do you have anything off the top of your head I could do with him that would be like fun for him and educational with shaving cream?
Yes. Okay. You have like a mason jar or any sort of like clear jar. Fill it most of the way with water and put shaving cream on top and tell him that's a cloud, right? Then give him some food coloring. Let him drip it on top of the shaving cream. And then you can talk about, okay, well, you're filling up the cloud, and soon when the cloud is full, it's gonna rain. And then he'll start to see the food coloring drop down into the water, and then you can talk about the water cycle.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are there natural places that you know of that you generally encourage people to go that are safe for kids to explore?
Yeah. There are some really good ones. It kind of depends on like your kid's ability or, you know, their mood, really, how much they want to walk. There are some really great places. Cooper Mountain Nature Park is really good, and there's like a little playground, so I always use that as kind of a carrot at the end. But they have some really good outlook spaces, so you can see different landforms, like you can see the mountains in the background, and then there's like a flat space, so you can talk about that. And there's a lot of creatures around. We've seen bald eagles and deer and all kinds of little critters.
They actually have a map to actually log all those for the kids, just like the geocaching as well, out in that same area. Sorry, I frequent there quite often with my kids.
Yeah. Cooper Mountain is great. My daughter is not a hiker, so that one's kind of hit or miss because it's kind of steep at the end. Tryon Creek in Southwest Portland is a great one. There are multiple trails, so you could do as little or as much as your kids are willing to do. And I like that one because it's got the creek, so it brings out a whole different group of animals. Plus there's like a horse trail. So sometimes you see horses going by. The Tualatin Valley Nature Park or Wildlife Park off of the Pacific Highway in Sherwood is great. It's a huge migration stop for so many birds in the fall and in the spring on their ways to and from. So that's a great one as well. And that one's flat. So that's a big win for us in our house.
There's a Tualatin Hills Nature Park off of between TV Highway and Baseline, I believe.
Yeah.
That's also
and up there in Hillsborough too is also the Oranco Woods Park, which is great because it's got the playground feature, but it also has the nature trails, which are super fun.
And Noble Woods is another park in Hillsborough.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just like to find little places, especially now where I like to avoid crowds. You know, just these little parks and even your neighborhood, right? If you haven't looked closely, your neighborhood walking trails are a gold mine for nature watching. Right? Like right down to the little caterpillars. What are they? What are they going to turn into? What do you think? How are they going to turn into that thing? So, yeah.
Fano Creek Trail's a pretty big one as well.
Yes, the Fano Creek Trail is a big one. That one's been...
And now that it's summertime, a lot of the water's gone down to where it's accessible in most of the areas now.
Yes, and so I live like steps off the Fano Creek Trail. They've kicked out most of the beavers too, so it's not damming and flooding the sidewalks anymore. So that's a good one. That is a high traffic area though. So if you're looking for like a peaceful, slow nature walk, that might not be the right one just because there's so many bikers and runners. But it is lovely. It is a lovely path.
How do you get kids to maybe start asking questions?
Model it for them. So, like I said, I grew up an indoor kid, so I am still learning about everything. So a couple years ago, I started noticing this big bird in the park behind my house, and I didn't know what it was. And I was like, I wonder what kind of a bird that is. And so every day we'd go back and visit it. It was in kind of the same spot. So I kind of observed its patterns. And then I said, you know, I think I want to find out what kind of bird this is. So we came home and I looked up, you know, I could tell it was a bird of prey because of its sharp beak and, you know, the terrifying talons. So we came back home and we looked on the internet and we talked about the keywords that we might want to use, like bird of prey, and we might want to use the color to narrow our results. And then we were able to find out what it was. Oh, it's called a barred owl. What's it doing in that same tree every day? Turns out it had babies in that tree. So I just kept modeling the asking questions. Oh, I wonder what the babies eat. I wonder how long until they grow their flying feathers. I wonder if they'll stay in this park. Just model it for them is really the best thing you can do.
What's a good way to keep kids enticed? I run into issues with failure. So he doesn't like to fail at things, which granted, who does? But I also try to encourage him to keep going afterwards. But that's normally when I lose him is after the first fail. It's like, no, I cry or I quit.
So that's really, how old is your child?
8.
Yeah. That's not out of the realm of normal. I might suggest like leaving it that day, right? My daughter also gets like very frustrated, and when she's done, she's done. Drop it in that moment, because the last thing you want it to do is become a power struggle. I would come back to it another time. Like maybe when they're calm, and say like, hey, you know, that Lego tower didn't work. What if we tried it this way? Or do you have any ideas on how we can change it for next time? But like wait a good amount of time until they're calm. It might even be like a couple days later. Probably still thinking about it. They just don't want to touch it yet. So I would say give them that time to think.
Okay.
And yeah, maybe sit there and try it with them, or show them a picture of something and be like, what do you think about this idea?
So I think it's time now for our door prize, and Shari's going to set us up for that. This is a lot of fun. And Helene, this has been absolutely wonderful. I think lots of good ideas. We will send out some more information to people afterwards. But
Okay.
now let's see who wins the prize.
Can I just say one last thing and then I'll be done?
Yeah.
So the Washington County Cooperative Libraries have done a really good job of bringing in a lot of STEM books. And now, you know, that you can pick up things to go, my library has STEM bundles, different age groups. So that might be something that you want to check out and see if your library has. And
Good
then
idea.
other things like the apps and the podcasts are all on the stuff that you guys will get to take home.
Will you also, Helene, stay on after we close out? Because I want to ask you if I can get a copy of the updated PowerPoint, if you're okay with me sharing it. I think it has so much great stuff.
Oh,
in it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Helene, you can stop sharing your screen now.
Okay.
Okay. So Shari, go
Right.
ahead and spin the wheel.
All right. Let me get the famous wheel ready to go here. You do have to be here to win. I'm looking for it. Sorry, there it is. All right, here we go. All right, here we go.
Oh,
All right, William, we will, I'll
Yeah.
send you an email and we will work with you to get you the $10 gift card from Albertsons or Safeway after the event.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We appreciate all of you being here.
I
Yeah, this
appreciate
is
you
really
guys' everything. It helps.
Good, we're glad.
Thank you.
Check our website for upcoming events. There is an event on the 14th, also the Washington County Kids Summer Program Expo, where we'll have our program providers from Washington County introduce you guys to the programs they have going on this summer. So that may be good for you guys and your kids. And again, thank you so much for being here. Helene, you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And
Thanks,
there's more
everyone.
sessions.
So I posted in the chat the link to our events page,
Oh, great.
and you can easily go there and sign up for other sessions that are remaining, if you haven't already done that. And also the Summer Program Expo, if you wish to participate in that as well.
When I send you the email, it'll have an evaluation. We'd really appreciate it if you could click on that and answer the few questions. It just helps us improve what we do and how we provide services to our community. So thank you again. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
See, good to see you.
I'll email you, William.
Okay. Oops, somebody was, did you
Yeah.
admit a person?
I admitted Talia because she was in the waiting room. Talia.
Oh, no.
How are you? Is your daughter driving you crazy?
Maybe.
She's Pushing
Yeah.
the limits, I'm sure.
Yeah. Luckily, we're back at school a little bit.
Yay.
That's helpful. We all